Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome in on the Maize and Blue Review. Good afternoon, Michigan football. I'm Dennis Fithian, and we're ready to talk a little bit about the Wolverines. And welcome in on this Football Friday. We are here weekdays at 1 o'clock talking about the latest in Michigan sports, and that happens to be the football game that's going to be taking place tomorrow in Iowa City. So I think you all know that. We're going to tell you what we're going to be talking about here in just a moment. I had my my work fall off the screen, but there it is. Now it's back, and we're good to go. What are we talking about today? Well, we'll get to Michigan versus Iowa, the latest on the game, what I'm hearing about, who's in, who's out, what's going to happen, all of those things. We'll get to that straight ahead. I'll give you the prediction in the game early in the week. It's changed. It's essentially, it's pretty close to what my gut said out of the gate. But you twist this, you bend that, and you make your final prediction. And I have done that. But we'll start with talking about Michigan quarterback JJ McCarthy and how he will handle his first road start. And I put that question out there to you, the people, how you think JJ McCarthy will handle his first start. And you've watched him all along in some relief duty and spot duty last year, and then the quarterback battle this year in the Big Ten opener last week. So we've got a little bit to go on. I'll tell you how I'm feeling. You get your thoughts in. We'll put it up there in real time. Like James, who says he's going to be working live during the 1 o'clock hour that we're on here, but he's hoping that the Maize and Blue Review crew and the crew all over has a great Friday, and he's saying go Blue. He's come up with a 31-13 score, and Corum having at least 150 rushing yards. Now, 150 rushing yards would be great, and I don't put it past Blake Corum. I watched a little bit of the first half of the Big Ten championship game a couple days ago, and as I'm sitting there watching it, Blake Corum takes off for a 67-yard touchdown run. Makes a great run right over the right side. JJ McCarthy was running along with him and even got in front of him to block, to pave the way. And then I think he only had like 4 more carries there. If you don't do this, you combine Hassan Haskins' totals and Blake Corum. Last year, Michigan was able to run the ball. Let's face it, Michigan smashed them in the second half on way to winning their first Big Ten championship since 2004, 16 years in between. So we all know that part. But that's the familiar part of this game. You just saw the Hawkeyes in Indianapolis, and, they're talking revenge, and Michigan's talking about getting their first road win. So there you go. And Steven's saying without fumbling. And I think anybody that talks about this game really quick, you go over it, and you're probably, I don't know if you're tired of hearing about it, but the first thing that needs to be said is that, Iowa's offense is not very good, and that they thrive on turnovers. So you're going to want to eliminate, turnovers. There's turnovers, and then there's turnovers. I mean, there's bad turnovers. Bad turnovers are ones that, would be in your own end, a block punt, in your own 30, something that gives Iowa some field position. Those would be bad turnovers. Obviously any scoop and scores or pick sixes, those are, as worse as it gets, it doesn't get, or as bad as it gets, sorry, when it comes down to that. But, like if Michigan's marching in and they, turn it over on the Iowa 10, clearly that's not as bad. But I don't know if I need to differentiate that. I mean, people that are watching, I think the people that are watching this podcast are, understand all of that. But it's the first thing you're saying along with the offense. I mean, those two things are the things that jump out the most, that Iowa, does not have a very good offense, and that they thrive on turnover. So that's where you start. And then wherever you want to go after that, it's up to you. I'm going to the quarterback position. JJ McCarthy he made his first full start last week. And, now he goes into his first road test. And, those are the things, there's some unpredictability. What we had saw, and certainly in those first 3 games, JJ McCarthy looked great. Like, he won the job going away. He barely threw an incompletion. And when he did in the one game, it was a drop. I mean, he ran the ball. He looked awesome. And then last week, a little bit shaky, but some things that he can improve on. And if he does, things will be looking really good for Michigan. Let's get into some of that as we talk about McCarthy's first road game, just how he'll handle it. I said it earlier in the week, actually Monday coming out, that it looked like in the first half. I don't know, maybe McCarthy decided he wasn't going to run it as much. Maybe the staff, talked to him about not running the ball as much. I don't think that they did that. Taking away, you got a dual threat quarterback, taking away something that he does really well because you're worried about him taking hits. I mean, that's not the way that you play football. So I don't think that they did that. Now, do they talk to him about after he gets a first down, trying to avoid unnecessary blows? Yeah, I think they talked to him about that a lot. I think Harbaugh's even talked about that. And that was one of the things last week when he scrambled around and ultimately ran for the first down on a 3rd and 7. He ended up picking up 2 more yards. He didn't need to do that, but he's trying to break one, and I'm sure that's what McCarthy thought. Like, he turned a little bit. They almost got hit in the back first time I saw it. That's what I thought. And then everybody's like, "Go down!" And like coming up Sunday, there's a big football game in the NFL in Baltimore. The Ravens are taking on the Bills. And I think JJ McCarthy, he watches Josh Allen and he watches Lamar Jackson. I mean, those guys are dual threat quarterbacks, but that's not the kind of quarterback that, like maybe that is what McCarthy, ultimately is on the ground. I'm not sure. Saying, I mean, these are 2 of the best QBs right now. And Jalen Hurts, you'd put him in the same kind of category, but I talked about the Bills and the Ravens because they're playing one another. But Josh Allen, you've seen him. He's a giant, and instead of sliding down, he'll put his shoulder into somebody. And Lamar Jackson, design runs, he'll run right between the tackles. He'll lower his shoulder as well. Sometimes he steps out of bounds, but Josh Allen's hurdling guys, going into him with his shoulder, and Jalen Hurts is the same way. You watch him; he's built like a defensive end. And he runs like a powerful running back. I mean, Jalen Hurts isn't looking to slide down. So it's easy to say, hey, JJ, go ahead and slide down. He's watching some of these quarterbacks, like, the guys I just mentioned. He's like, these guys are looking to finish off their runs. And McCarthy said it a few times that he's got a hockey player in him, like playing hockey, which equates to, like toughness. But those in the film room, those plays on, when to step out of bounds, when to slide down, when to see if you can break a tackle and, try to take it the distance. And it's the same thing when you're buying time in the pocket. It's very easy for me. We'll say that at the start. It's very easy for me to tell a quarterback, like, yeah, you know what? You watch a little bit of Tom Brady. Tom Brady, he'll be on the pocket, and sometimes he'll just take a nice slide step to the right or left, 2 feet forward, and it gives them the extra second or two. And those passing lanes open it up, and what a field, sees the entire field and everything else. So feel for the game, feel for the pocket. That is what you're trying to achieve. You watch some of go back to the NFL, Kyler Murray against the Raiders, where he was back there running around for 21 seconds. Here's a figure 8, and he's on a hamster wheel. He's running over this way. Then, next thing you know, the little guy's running over there and running in for the touchdown. I mean, these guys, JJ McCarthy sees that, and he's like, I got that too. That's fun. And, that's an aspect of his game, the freelance and buying time and running all over the into the backfield, it would be interesting to be in the film room when the coaches talk about him. Like, I'm sure they love his escapability and love that he's able to, make some plays with his feet. But clearly, you want to avoid blindside hits when you're back there and you've already run around for 8 seconds and everything's completely, a fire drill or whatever else, and then you don't see or feel the pressure when they're telling him, hey, you got to get rid of it, whatever the eternal clock is, how they go about that. I know, listening to Matt Weiss, Michigan's co-offensive coordinator this week, my guess is if he was sitting here talking with you, he'd say it's a process, and it is a feel, and we don't want to take away things that JJ can bring to the offense and how dangerous that he could be. And every game, he has something else that he can learn, that he can take into the next week, and that he can process, and that it'll help him. And all of that. Once you start talking about it too much, and I sensed it myself, you start sounding cliche. You start sounding like a coach. You start talking about some of the obvious stuff. That's what they're doing, though. And like trying to come up with some groundbreaking, like this is what JJ McCarthy needs to do, and this is how he's going to get better. I would have liked, and sometimes you see this in sports. You see a guy, it's the prodigies out there, and it hits the ground running, and it's all clear sailing all the time. Man, it's just this guy's great, never any issues, and that's the way it looked so far up to last week for JJ McCarthy. Yeah, he threw a pass or two into the ground last year, but those first 3 games, what are you going to say? You give him almost A's across the board. Certainly in those first 2 games, I don't know how you could, grade him anything lower than an A. And, you saw some of that with, some of the services like Pro Football Focus in that. But, it's one of these things where I felt myself watching him that, and if you've watched this earlier in the week, I said, you have to, his feel for the game looked a little bit off. And I think he was adjusting to the speed of the game when it came down to taking on Maryland after what you saw for the first 3 games. Maybe it's natural now that we're talking about it, but I know it sounds easy and, sounds like, yeah, I'm sure this is what they're talking about. Yeah, I'm sure they are talking about this too, but let's go over them. Getting rid of the ball quicker. They looked at all of the plays, and I think that they'll go to the one that he fumbled, that his center jumped on, that they reviewed, and his arm was going forward when he was running all around. I think they'll look at it and they'll say, yeah, if you're running, it's at times it's going to be a good play for JJ McCarthy to throw the ball away, throw it into the stands, or even take a sack. But just run and look. You don't have to look for the touchdown. You don't have to look for even a positive gain. If you get back to the line of scrimmage, that's a positive play. Once you get to, I don't know how many seconds it is. It'd be interesting to see and hear what the coaches have to say about it. Once you start freelancing and the pocket breaks, and now you're talking about freelance, off schedule, escapability, all of those things. We see some of the Kyler Murrays and Mahomes will do it, and I know McCarthy has that, but it's like let's wait a little bit, before there's a big time downside when it comes to running around out there and making plays. We know the upside, but there's a big time downside, and that's what he saw, and that's getting hit in the back when he doesn't know it and getting smashed, fumbling the ball, getting hurt, like all of those things. So I think I don't know, like they say, emphasize getting rid of the ball quicker, smarter, feeling the pocket, when to get rid of it. I'm sure they talked about that, looked at the tape, and that now that it has happened, I think he'll be able to use that experience. It'll be valuable for him coming up tomorrow. I think it's the same thing when you talk about sliding or getting out of bounds. It's easier said than done. Like, yeah, run around and use the escapability and make a play. Except if you don't feel the rush, you better, get down, and these guys are going to be looking head hunting or whatever else, looking to knock you out of the game. That is a feel for the game that you have to be able to, if you're a dual threat quarterback, have to figure out. Like I said, I'd rather see him be more Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes runs around an awful lot and does a lot of these, getting away from there and tries throwing all kinds of different ways. I don't know, think McCarthy, I haven't seen him do any of that, like underhanded or whatever, but just running around. But a lot of times what you see from Mahomes is when he does scramble, he waits and waits and waits, and then boom, he'll take off and he'll run 15 yards and he steps out of bounds. He'll run instead of the 15 yards, if it's up the middle and he sees some guys that are coming in at 5 yards, he slides. He does not take the kind of hits that Jalen Hurts, that Lamar Jackson, that Josh Allen, and some other running quarterbacks are taking. And again, I don't know exactly what McCarthy, his idea of the kind of running quarterback that he wants to be. Clearly, he has wheels. Clearly, he is dangerous in that aspect of the game. Does he want to be more Patrick Mahomes? I think so. Or does he want to be more like Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, jumping over guys and putting their shoulder into them? So they've talked about that. The other thing that you got to look at when it comes to JJ McCarthy is he wasn't very good on the deep passes last week. And Harbaugh said, well, he's finally got his arm strength back. And like, that was the reason that he overshot some of these guys. Okay. It was wherever it was, 90 in the non-conference, or, 95, 96, 97, but it was full go. And so this is why he was blowing the passes over the guys' heads. I don't know. Maybe some of that sounds like a coach protecting his QB, but the encouraging part on connecting with the deep passes, and you would like to see that tomorrow, obviously, is that in the fourth quarter, on a 3rd and 6, 48 yards down the field, when he hit Ronnie Bell down the right sideline, it was almost perfect. I mean, like, you can say it was perfect. It looked like he had to maybe slow down like a millisecond, or the ball, like, you'd say it was just picture perfect. No, it was close to that. And that's pretty encouraging. Also, considering that 10-play, 85-yard drive, he did miss a deep pass in that, but he looked, if I thought, which I did, that the game looked a little fast for him in the first half, and he looked like he lacked a little awareness in the second half, the adjustments that he made, that the coaching staff made at the half, he looked different in the second half. And that is encouraging. He looked really good on that drive that ended up with Roman Wilson catching the touchdown from 20 yards out. It was clearly his best drive of the day, and he made a lot of good throws. And then the Bell almost 50-yarder one down the right sideline, that was fantastic. So that's pretty encouraging. But and this is going to separate good quarterbacks to great quarterbacks. The great ones can fire the football down the field. They're putting the ball on their receivers. When they have a deep shot and a guy has a step or two, boom, touchdown. You're making the defense pay. And, you got to do better than 1 of 7 from over 20 yards, which he was last week. He knows that, but, sitting around saying, well, now that he's got his arm strength, he'll make the adjustments. I'm not sure about that. Whatever it is, let's see. Let's see him put the ball on the receiver. If he's able to do that, that's where you're talking about taking the next step. If he really does start putting the ball on the receivers and getting a better feel in the pocket and knowing when to step out of bounds and slide down, we're talking about him going. And, he's a sophomore, and it wasn't terrible last week. It wasn't great. But if he fixes just, I'd say those things, those are a lot of things. You're talking about him taking a step into a stratosphere like, okay, yeah. And so every game, I'm not expecting him to, connect on every deep shot, and when he has an opportunity to always get rid of the ball when somebody's coming after him, and getting a feel in the pocket, and knowing when to live for another down. And same thing when he's running, knowing when to, hey, I see some daylight, I can score a touchdown, but let me go ahead and slide down here. I mean, all of those things. If he's that's going to be a work in progress, but if he is learning and getting better at those, that's what's going to take him to a guy that, if you're a Michigan fan, you can say, we got a weapon, and we've got somebody that can win a Big Ten championship under center. And that's what we're talking about. And that's the thing for Michigan. Sure, it's hard. Sure, he's just a sophomore. And man, we grading hard on him last week in all these different plays. And, the other side of that, we understand that it's a fishbowl and everything is scrutinized. But if we're talking about Michigan right now, they're undefeated. They're the number 4 team in the country. They're heading down the road, and they've got a lot of possibilities. It isn't just me sitting here grabbing, I don't have any maize and blue pom-poms and shaking them around saying, go blue, go blue. No, this is a team that if I wasn't a Michigan fan, that I was just, set in here and I was watching it for the last 11 months and grading things and evaluating them and giving my opinion, it would be the same. That this is a team that's got a lot of talent on offense. This is a quarterback that could be a difference maker. How they're going to come along on defense and how they come together on offense. I mean, special teams looks pretty good. They've got the schedule. This could be a championship team. I think that's the thing that I'm talking about here and where I am at with it. Okay, with that, let's take some feedback. See where the people are at. Todd says the Hawkeyes are going to concentrate on stopping the run, forcing JJ to beat them. Yeah, well, I would agree with that. They've got a pretty good defense. They've got a good trio of linebackers. They've got a playmaker in their secondary. Last year they led the country in turnovers. So yeah, I think that's going to be, if you're sitting here from an Iowa standpoint and talking about their game plan, that's how they're going to stay in the game. That's how they're going to pull the upset. That's how they're going to win the game. Stopping the run, forcing JJ to beat them, and then coming up with some turnovers. Really, there's always a one-off or, something that, it's football. Crazy things happen, but that's their path. I don't know how many paths there are to victory, but most of them are using getting turnovers and, forcing JJ to put it up in the air would be the way to do that. Get a tip ball, get an overthrow, or try to get some fumbles. Jeremy says JJ is going to shut the critics up over one game of almost turnovers, 280 passing yards, 40 rushing, and a total of 4 TDs. Yeah, I think like when it says shut up the critics, like there were a few. I mean, there's always going to be this. There's going to be some Michigan fans, and we talk about this all the time. They're going to be super high that we're talking about last week's game that were like, he played great. What are you talking about? The play here, the play there is awesome. And then they're going to be others, it's like he played terrible. He was neither of those things. But, what everybody's assessment is, if there is a critic that was, acting like, he was exposed or he's terrible, that's the kind of person that doesn't know what they're talking about or is, trying to, get you to call into their talk show or, trying to get you to, buy the free press. Those are the kind of people that are those, whatever. Let's see if we have some more feedback here. We got some predictions of, if Michigan are, and here's a question, if they will hit their average of 234 rushing yards or break 200. Yeah, I would say with the emphasis in knowing Blake Corum and how he has been the engine, he is the first person, if I am, again, this is the second time I've never put myself in this position, but if I'm on the Iowa staff and I'm on the defensive staff and they say, okay, go ahead, talk to the team. What are you going to say? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk up to the board and I'm going to write the number 2. I'm going to say, we are stopping number 2. If we stop number 2, if we stop Blake Corum, who wears number 2, this is going to be the key to victory. You're going to make that quarterback who's making his first road start uncomfortable. We're going to get the crowd turning up the noise. That's going to be the way. But I think just like Corum popped a 67-yarder for the first score in Indy last year, just like he had the 33 and 45-yard runs last week. A big play, like, predictions of Corum going over 100 yards or 150 that I've already seen on here. I would say likely that is going to go under. But do I think he can pop a 40, a 50, a 67-yarder, just a big play? Yeah, he can do that. I also think it's JJ McCarthy is a good candidate for that. All of this stuff, the running, everybody's in there. McCarthy's, boom, he takes off for a 50-yarder. He's got that in him. Of course, Roman Wilson, there's a few others. AJ Henning, you put in there. Remember, Michigan has big play ability. What was the stat from last year? No team. They led the nation. What was it in plays over 30, 20, 30, 40, 50 yards? Certainly it was 50. I'm not sure if it was 20, but they led the nation in plays over 50 yards. What's that tell you? It tells you they got an explosive player or two. And those guys are back. So predicting that Michigan gets a couple big-time 50-plus plays, whether it's from those guys I just mentioned, I think that you can get close to expecting that. That's what I'm expecting to happen in this game. That it's going to be relatively close, and Iowa's going to play off of their crowd defensively and pour everything into their run game. And Michigan, it's not about staying patient. It's just whenever it happens, being able to get that playmaker and it come together, and boom, Roman Wilson for 55 yards. Blake Corum, 50-yard touchdown run. That's how I see it, Stephen. So that's what I'm talking about. Let's look at some other things that are going on here. First, the captain says, big W coming in about 24 hours. Yeah, where are we at under 22 and a half hours? Man, we're counting it down. Countdown to kickoff. My namesake, Brown. D. Brown. He doesn't want to hear any mumbo jumbo voodoo talk. Michigan should win this game. Go blue. Yeah. You know what I found? I'm sorry. You know what I found, D, is that it's great to be a Michigan fan and like it's your number one team and your whole world, sports world, revolves around everything that's going on with Michigan. Well, you're going to run into some people that worry about everything. Oh my God, look at JJ. Oh, what about the injuries? And oh my God, they top 5 teams go to die, and they're so loud in Iowa City, and I'm scared. All these different things. There's a lot of people that are like that. It's just so worried. And that was on Tuesday. I mean, there was a point on Tuesday. I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels like, I'm sitting around, tons of people that are sitting there chewing their, fingernails and everything else. It's like, yeah. Like, when you take a step back and breathe and look up the matchup, D. Brown, I know funny things happen on the road in conference play. I know the history. I've seen it. All of those kind of things. Sure. But if you want to be a great team, and that's what this team wants to be, you go out there and you handle your business. And to me, it looks good. Where I'm sitting right now, no, I'm not just sitting back with my telling everybody to stop, smell the roses, and put their hands behind their head and kick their feet up because it's going to be a nice, easy, breezy win. I'm not so sure about that. I think it'll be a hard fought victory, but I'm with you, D. Brown. Oh, voodoo, history, top 5 teams going to die. Michigan protects the ball, plays their game. They've got big playability. I think they'll make some of those big plays. I think they'll win. They got fantastic special teams. And that obviously includes an outstanding punter, great kicker, awesome returner. The one thing I don't know as we sit here 24 hours away from kickoff is the status of AJ Henning and Donovan Edwards. And those are 2 really big, like you talk about playmaking ability. Like those 2 guys are big time bullets in your gun if you're Michigan. And I haven't even seen anything about AJ Henning, popping up and anybody talking about him being hurt, but he didn't have any where he did in the non-conference. He wasn't utilized in the run game. It wasn't utilized in the reverse game in the end around. So that makes you wonder, like, wait a second, well, what's going on with Henning? So, that's something I don't know, worry about. It's something to take a look at. Where's number 3? And then the other one with Donovan Edwards. This is how I feel, and for everything that I know about Donovan Edwards is that he was close to being able to play last week, and maybe would have if it was a game against Penn State or Ohio State. With an extra week of rest, and he's that close, and Michigan felt confident in what they had, I believe that was the case. And so now he's put a few days behind him. I would say that if he was trending to play and almost was ready and could have played last week, that, there'd be honestly, a really good chance that there's a good chance that number 7, who threw the touchdown pass for Michigan's second score of the Big Ten championship game last year when he threw that dart to Roman Wilson, will be available for U of M. And that 1-2 punch, you feel pretty good. If you're looking at the Maize and Blue review late tonight, tomorrow morning, and you see Henschke on there talking to his sources and, giving the thumbs up, well, that'll make you feel a little bit better about everything, won't it? Not that you like to hear this, but I'm definitely in a we'll have to wait and see mode, which is not one that you like. People don't like to wait. I don't like the wait and see mode either, but that is where we're at. We are going to have to wait and see. So that's where we're at on McCarthy. And we kind of slide into the next part here, and this is just the latest on the game. And me talking about, well, we'll just have to wait and see on the injuries. Like I said, the trajectory, I feel good. If I had to predict whether Donovan Edwards would play or not tomorrow, I would say that he would play. Now, going back in the game that he got hurt, and it was at Hawaii, and watching that game when he caught that pass down at the goal line and then took it in, the announcer, Lisa Byington, said, well, he hit his head. Well, so I think it's an ankle, and yet, it could have been a concussion. So I'm not sure. Now I'm just, putting something in there. But if I had to guess, I would guess that Donovan Edwards would play for Michigan tomorrow. If I had to guess, Carson Barnhart, number 52, would be available for Michigan as a swing tackle, as an extra tackle, as somebody that could come in a pinch and get in there on that offensive line. I expect him to be available. Who else are we talking about? Well, and Henning. I mean, he did play last week, and so maybe a precautionary there. So I would also say, I don't know about being encouraged. I would also think that it would be Henning that would be available for Michigan tomorrow. The ones that I'm pretty sure about not going would be Cade McNamara. I don't think that is happening. Also, Nakai Hill-Green, where I was sounding optimistic early in the week, that optimism has been shut down over the last few days. I do not think that you're going to see 41 there as a linebacker for Michigan, Nakai Hill-Green. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. That's the latest sitting here about Michigan when it comes down to the injuries and everything else. I always like to see how much of the feedback that I can get in. Sometimes guys are talking about things that I am not talking about. The account is going back to the voodoo part. That only happens at night, 11 a.m. at Kinnick. Child's play. Yeah, child's play. Let's say Yakov. We haven't seen him in a while. He says, not sure we know if JJ can read a defense. We do know that he's a good athlete. Well, I don't know. I think, that sounds a little harsh towards him not being able to read a defense. I'm not sure that he's, some mastermind that is able to put all the pieces and be able to process it. Like he's an NFL quarterback or an All-American quarterback at college. He looks like watching him that he doesn't stick on his first read. I have seen it looks like he will go through his progressions. If I am talking about the things I'm not sure of, I'm not sure about the speed of the game and then him trying to do too much, escaping and buying more time when he's passing. And I'm not sure that he has a great feel on when to slide or get out of bounds or, when, to try to take it the distance. And when you talk about those things being coachable, they sit there all week and say, okay, this is what we see. What were you feeling and all that? When they say those things are correctable, like I feel like and like I said, I'm not agreeing with the part about him reading a defense. I think the coachable part is being able to get rid of the ball after a certain amount of time, even if you're escaping. Stepping out of bounds or sliding down, that's a little trickier because, a guy thinks that he can, break it for 50 yards and, the staff saying as soon as you get that first down, go down, how they keep his confidence and then, keep him from, uh, how they allow him to potentially have this big splash play and be able to utilize his talents from then protecting it. I mean, that's an ongoing process. Not to sound like a coach again, but that's it. Well, nobody's telling you anything different. That's exactly what it is. That is an ongoing process. Now, the one, if we're talking about being worried, and I'm not sitting here supremely confident, specifically about McCarthy. If he, talk about his arm strength and the missing the deep balls and all of that. That's going to be one that I'm going to have to see to believe. And that's one, if you want to take the next step, whatever that next step is going to be for McCarthy, you put those footballs on the receiver like he did to Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell just ran out there and put his hands up and boom, the ball was in there. It was a special throw. Those other deep shots didn't have a chance. And that's going to separate game breaker. Sometimes my Apple Watch, I can tell when I'm getting really loud and stuff, and so it starts talking to me. That's going to separate the game breaker and playmaker and a quarterback that can lead this team back to Indianapolis and, maybe just a good quarterback. So we got to see that. That's where I'm at with him, Yakov. Well, a little bit different. And it's Andres is good. It's good to see that. It's also good to see a prediction of Donovan Edwards torching the Hawkeyes for a couple scores. Leo does not like what Yakov had to say about JJ. And look, D. Brown says he's not looking for a perfectionist at quarterback. He wants a football player, which JJ appears to be. Yeah, and I think it appears to be a process. Todd saying if that's going to be his bad game, he'll be fine. Well, he'll be fine if he fumbles and Michigan's jumping on it. He'll be fine. So I'm buying this at this point, and I could see how somebody on the other side would say either you're making excuses or you're just being an optimist. I think that could be fair. And this is what I'm going to say. That now now that it's happened, that he had some fumbles, that he missed some passes, that he took a big hit that nobody liked. Now that those happened and Michigan won, that's going to be a valuable lesson for him come tomorrow. If you go back to the offseason for a second and remember, I was one that predicted Michigan to ultimately go with JJ McCarthy, that they would let these two guys battle it out in the non-conference. And my prediction was that October the 1st, that JJ McCarthy would start for Iowa. Now, if it played out like that, and we had saw like the, super playmaker, almost looked, perfect JJ McCarthy, took over the job. However, Jim Harbaugh would have gone about the quarterback competition, and this actually was his first start. You might be very optimistic because you hadn't seen anything bad from JJ McCarthy, but if McCarthy plays like he did in the first half tomorrow, there's a good chance that Michigan is going to lose. But now he is armed with that experience, and it is a good thing. I don't know if you think that makes me sound optimistic or if that makes me sound way like, Michigan, you know, because there's the side about that is like, yeah, well, he was playing really easy competition. Now that he's playing against the Big Ten, it's a little different ball game. And I get that. I do factor in the talent that I have seen, not just in this non-conference, that I have seen last year. Also, him throwing the ball, where last week that was the first time where I was like, so what's up with the accuracy here from McCarthy? There were a few things that we just hadn't seen. So that's why I think that's why I am optimistic about him and about Michigan's chances tomorrow, which gets us to the prediction. Earlier in the week, that was on Monday, I came out and said, I'm feeling 20-10. Feeling 20-10. Well, as the week went on a little bit, I tacked 4 points on the Michigan's total. We'll put another 3 on Iowa. If you add those up, that is a score that makes the game go under in Vegas. So I like the under. And right now, I'm going to say right now, I don't know, I didn't check it in the last hour or two. It was 10.5. This score has Michigan covering the point spread. I think it might have jumped up to 11 for a minute earlier in the week. I'd already made my prediction. That's 10.5 right now. That can happen. I'll on Sunday before I see the betting line against Indiana, and after I see what happens with Michigan, and I'll say, okay, this is what I think the line should be. Here's what I think the score is going to be, and then I'll see what it is. Why I thought that it was going to be 7.5, the line, and then I had Michigan, winning 20-10. I've since bumped that up, and so it's all what it tells me is that at least my read is if you're somebody that's gambling and you can do whatever you want, if you're just doing it for fun, you like having money on Michigan, I get it. But this would be one that I would stay away from because I have been right there on 10 and then, 10.5, 11 in the over. And, it's pretty close. I mean, you're coming down to a coin toss when you're getting into to me, the gambling aspect of it. But I do have Michigan covering. I do have them leading at the half by 8 points. I don't have the exact halftime total. I could look that up, but maybe we'll do that later on sharpening the edge. So with that, let's just go through and we'll take some of your scores and take a look at it, how you're feeling about it. Andres is feeling like a 31-6 Michigan victory. It's a gigantic victory, Andres. That would be something that would be really good for all the Michigan fans. They would like that. Scott, I think Michigan would take your prediction as well, 31-10. No problem with that. Jerry wants everyone to leave JJ alone. He's going to be fine. I know he will. Account is sitting there at 34-10. And what's this? Is he talking about? I don't think Iowa has a hockey team. We're talking about a baseball score here, 5-3. Iowa. Yeah. That is Stephen. I'm not sure. Being funny. All right. Scott is saying that if Michigan passes the ball at least 25 times, we will whip Iowa. Number 3 yards in a cloud of dust. No, I'm sorry. No 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I think Luke Schoonmaker is the best tight end in the country. Better than Eric Hall. Yeah. Scott, man. 39-5. Blue. a lot of scores that make a lot of people really happy. Here's something that will make you happy. You have an opportunity to get the Maize and Blue review right now. Full access right now. Free until hoop season. Use the promo code UMB2B. That's UMB2B. That's a lot of fun. Forget this Iowa being 5-1 in their last 6 home games. Now I'm going through some of the slides from other days and what's going on, but this is what I wanted to tell you, that we've got all kinds of podcasts going on right now all throughout the week, sometimes 2 a day. This one, weekdays at 1 o'clock, will be on after the Iowa game tomorrow, around 3:30, 5 or 10 minutes after the game. We hook it up and we talk about what happens. Coming up a little bit later on today, I've got 9 picks. Pick the Michigan game. I've already told you what that score is going to be, or my score in it, but we'll pick the Michigan State game, the Lions, 3 other games that we like, a parlay, a prop, and then we'll have a best bet of the week that's coming your way at 2:45 if you want to watch that live today and get involved like you are right now. Okay, till tomorrow. I'm Dennis Fithian. I want everybody to tell everybody to relax. I'm pretty relaxed. You know, the weather out today get actually a little bit chilly the last couple days, but today it is kicked up and it's sitting in the 60s right now, 63, and not a cloud in the sky. That's pure Michigan. Michigan at Iowa. Not going to win for the first time since 2005. In a game that I was sitting in the end zone. Tomorrow, I'll be sitting right here talking about how Michigan did it against Iowa. Until then, everybody have a great rest of their Friday, a great weekend. Enjoy everything. And I'll talk with you tomorrow after the game. Until then, so long.